Hello, cake lover. How are you doing? Today is another exciting episode, and I hope you are ready to learn something. So, today we will be making the viral sun and moon cake. Okay, um, a customer called me that he wanted to celebrate his three children's birthday, so he wanted a cake that reflected all three. And I thought that let me do the sun and moon cake, and maybe that would bring out their personalities. Okay, so that's what I did. And with this one, this was my first time making the sun and moon cake, and so I'll be telling you what I did right and what went wrong, because when you're making something new for the first time, you always underestimate how it's going to be like. Okay, so I frosted the cake as usual, filling inside and then the crumb coating. Yes, that's what I did. And this was an 8-inch cake, okay, an 8-inch 2-layer cake. One was vanilla and the other red velvet. And I can tell you that this is so delicious. Yes, if you've not tasted my cakes before, just WhatsApp me on 054 and you have the most heavenly cake you've ever tasted. Yes, I'm that confident. So I crumb coated, and I would soon realize my first mistake. Okay, but now let's focus on the crumb coating. Yes, it was with the same flavor of whipped cream that I used in the middle. Okay, you know that with these cakes, the price matters. So if it was on the higher side, then I could have added another filling in the middle. But yes, he didn't want any over the top design. He wanted his kids to be happy. So that's what we were doing. So the first mistake I realized was, I always advise that chill your cakes, freeze your cakes before you frost them, so you have minimal crumbs, right? With this one, I should have taken it out of the freezer for a longer period than I did, because carving that tiny inch out was so difficult, because the cake itself was frozen. And I'm even lucky that the cake was oil based, and so it was a little bit easier. The red velvet was oil based, so it was a little easier. But mind you that the vanilla was both oil and margarine based. Okay, so I mixed them up, and trust me, I had difficulties. So you can see that the red velvet was easier. It came out, and I was so happy here. I was so happy. I was like, my God. Then I realized that, come to think of it, the vanilla wasn't cut yet. So I tried to cut it. So that's the first mistake. You have to learn from it. Okay. And so I had to go in again to cut the vanilla, and slow but steady, I was able to do that as well. It didn't come out as perfect as the red one, so I had to trim it a little before I could go on to frost it. Okay, but in all, it was a good experience. I experienced something, and with this one, now I know, so you don't have to go through that. Make sure that your cake is not frozen. Okay, and you will have an easy thing to do. So the next thing, you have to carve out again. Yes, even after the rounds you've cut out, you still have to trim the cake again. And this is because you frost the cake, and frosting the cake will mean that something more is being added to it. So you are frosting the small rounds you cut, and then you are frosting the bigger one also. So if you do not trim more, it is not going to fit, okay? And I trimmed and trimmed and trimmed. So fine, after that I crumb coated it again. Remember that the trimmed part is bare, it has crumbs, and so look at how big it is. Look at how big the hole has become, right? Bear that in mind. Bear how big the hole has become in mind. Okay, fine. So I frosted or crumb coated it again to my best ability. The thing is, you see, with the outside, people will see it, but because you are going to place the small rounds or the mini cake back in there, people are not really going to see the inside. So I wasn't really bothered about it. After that, I chilled the cake, right? And I came back to the mini cake and I crumb coated it again because now it's also bare. So I crumb coated it just as you see it, okay? Let's continue. I then cleaned and then also chilled it as well. After crumb coating, I always chill it to make sure I have a good base for the final coat. And so that is what happened. I hope you're okay. I hope you are learning something. And then I hope that so far we've gotten a nugget at least, right? Then I went on to the final coating, and with this one I did a yellow, right? Because the children called me later on and they were like, Auntie, the girl said, Auntie, I need a yellow cake. I want mine to be yellow, okay? So I decided to make it yellow and I frosted it as usual, right? And I added some textures to it. So this was supposed to be the sun part, all right? So I then added textures like I said earlier. I went with my comb and then added textures to it. Yes, and everything was going great at this point. I'm not going to lie to you. Everything was going great. I didn't know how it was going to look, but I mean, everything was going great. So after that, you just decorate it as usual. Because the cake is frozen, you're not really going to get any wobbliness, okay? So I just then piped a border and I added her initial. She's a queer, so I put an E in the middle of the top of the cake. You get it? Like an E topper. Yes. And that reflected that indeed it was for her. And I did some vintage piping at the side too. I wish I hadn't done it, but I thought it would blend with the bigger one, so I did it. The vision looked great, right? But let's go on. Oh my god. And so the second child, who happened to be a boy, said, Auntie, I want mine to be blue. I want my part to be blue. So I started thinking, blue? Then finally the third child said, I want my part to be red. Sincerely speaking, if I had time, I would have done something But again, the pricing also matters, right? I wasn't going to do any labor intensive thing that would, and add a little more stuff that would let the price hike up because of the budget they had. I mean, it's a sizable cake, so we just decorated the blue and the red, and it wasn't from here. I still had hope. Yes, I had hope. You can tell me nothing. So let's continue. I frosted it, and in fact, frosting the inside was a little bit of a challenge. I'm not going to lie to you. They make it look so easy and so simple, but getting them round in the middle, especially with having multiple colors, right? You don't want the other part to the red to seep into the blue, or the blue to seep into the red. So you are kind of careful, and it makes it a bit harder. You can see that there was even transfer, but I was okay because the yellow would go there and everything would be fine. So, but with the outer side, I was so careful. And then I added the yellow border or the yellow pipings on the side, so the yellow one at least matches with that. But once again, I wish I didn't do it because it didn't look good for me enough. And so going forward, that's something I would not do, or maybe try to pipe a little bit more. But like I said, the price, I was thinking about the price also, right? So let's go on. So I just cleaned it, and then the most difficult part came. I'm telling you, it's the most difficult part. No one tells you this, but lifting that cake and placing it there. And do you remember that I told you that remember the big hole we created? Yes, after frosting, it wasn't fitting as it should be. It wasn't, even though I carved out more. So next time I would carve out more. And this was clients come when they cut the cake at church, and they were so happy. And to be frank, everything came out great, but obviously there are some things I have learned from this. Okay, so yes, this was it. This is how you do the sun and the moon cake. Any design at all you want, and everything is going to be great. If you learned something, like and subscribe, share, and tell everyone about Arielle Bakes. See you next time. I hope you have a wonderful day.